There is a specific texture to the air when you walk into a room that only you can feel. It is a heaviness, a sudden shift in atmospheric pressure. You know the feeling of scanning a face for micro-expressions before you even say hello. You know the exhaustion of constantly calibrating your existence to ensure you do not accidentally trigger an explosion. If you are watching this, it is likely because you have spent your entire life feeling like a lightning rod. You are the one in the family or the friend group or the workplace who somehow always ends up holding the blame. Even for things you did not do. Even for things that were objectively impossible for you to influence. You have likely asked yourself, late at night, staring at the ceiling, is there something wrong with me? Am I simply a bad person? Do I attract chaos? Let me stop you there. You are not crazy, and you are not bad. What you are experiencing is not a series of unfortunate misunderstandings. It is a structural necessity. It is a psychological role that was assigned to you perhaps before you were even born. In systems theory, this is known as the identified patient, but in the ancient archetypal language of human history, we call it something else. You are the scapegoat. Let us characterize your reality for a moment, just to be sure we are speaking to the right person. You likely possess a high degree of empathy, yet you are often accused of being cold or selfish. You have a memory that records emotional transactions with painful accuracy, yet you are constantly told that you are imagining things or being too sensitive. You feel an intense need to explain yourself, to over-justify your actions, as if you are perpetually on trial in a court where the judge has already written the verdict. This is the paradox of your existence. You are the vessel into which the collective shadow of the group is poured. The family, the society, the tribe, they need to believe they are good. They need to believe they are pure. But they are human, full of envy, rage, and shame. Where does that shame go? It cannot simply vanish. It must be placed somewhere. Or rather, on someone. Today, we are going to deconstruct the machinery of this trap. We are not just going to talk about why it hurts. We are going to talk about why it was necessary for them to choose you, and why, paradoxically, being the outcast might be the only path to true intellectual and spiritual freedom. I know the burden you carry in secret. It is the shame of the exit. Maybe you have stopped attending family gatherings. Maybe you sit in silence at dinners, refusing to engage. Maybe you have completely cut off contact with people who share your DNA. Society looks at you and sees a problem. They call you difficult, aloof, or ungrateful. They say, "But they are your family," or "Why can't you just let it go?" And because you are who you are, someone who deeply cares, you believe them. You internalize their judgment. You think your desire for distance is a defect in your character. Let us correct the record. Your withdrawal is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of sanity. When a body detects a virus, it raises its temperature. It isolates the infection. That is not a sickness. That is an immune response. You are not antisocial, you are simply the only one in the room with a functioning immune system against toxicity. The people who blame you, the ones who need you to be the villain, are often operating in a state of shared delusion. They maintain the peace by pretending everything is fine. You, on the other hand, committed the ultimate sin. You noticed that the house was on fire and you refused to sit down and drink tea while it burned. Consider the concept of the identified patient in family therapy. Often, the person dragged into therapy as the problem child is actually the healthiest person in the family structure. Why? Because they are the only one reacting to the dysfunction. The others are numb. You are feeling everything. Your anxiety, your anger, your need to run away, these are not symptoms of a disorder. They are evidence that your reality testing is intact. You are feeling pain because you are being burned. That is not a flaw. That is biology working exactly as intended. They call your silence arrogance. We know it is actually exhaustion. They call your boundaries cruelty. We know it is actually self-preservation. The world rewards those who play the game, the superficial, the loud, the ones who can smile while being insulted. But you possess a depth they find intimidating. You refuse to perform the play, and that is why they blame you. Not because you are wrong, but because your very existence holds up a mirror to their dysfunction, and they cannot bear to look at their own reflections. So, let go of the guilt. You do not need to defend yourself in their court anymore. You have already won the only verdict that matters, the right to your own reality. To truly heal, we must stop looking at your pain as a personal accident. We must look at it as a structural inevitability. The French philosopher René Girard spent his life decoding a hidden variable in human society called the Scapegoat Mechanism. Girard argued that all communities, families, offices, nations are held together by mimetic desire. We want what others want. This leads to envy, rivalry, and eventually, chaos. To prevent the group from destroying itself, the tension must be released. The group unconsciously selects a single victim, a pharmakos. The pharmakos is a vessel. The group projects all their internal conflict, their sins, and their rage onto this one person. Then, they cast them out. By sacrificing the one, the many are saved. Peace is restored, temporarily. You were not blamed because you were guilty. You were blamed because the group needed peace, and you were the convenient price they paid for it. You were the glue holding their fragile reality together. Carl Jung provides us with the second key to this prison. He spoke of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we refuse to acknowledge. In a dysfunctional family, the parents often possess deep, unresolved shadows. Perhaps it is their own feeling of inadequacy, perhaps it is their secret aggression. Because they cannot bear to look at this darkness in themselves, they must find a container for it outside of themselves. You became that container. When they called you lazy, were they projecting their own fear of failure? When they called you selfish, were they projecting their own narcissism? You were walking around carrying their baggage. You were the living, breathing museum of their repressed history. Is it any wonder you feel so heavy? You have been carrying the weight of ghosts that do not belong to you. This brings us to a difficult but liberating truth: determinism. Given the emotional immaturity of your environment and given your sensitive nature, the outcome was mathematically inevitable. There is no universe where you could have been good enough to escape this, because the role was cast before you walked onto the stage. Understanding this releases you from the prison of what if? What if I had tried harder? It would not have mattered. What if I had been quieter? They would have found another reason. The script was written by their trauma, not by your actions. You are innocent not because you are perfect, but because the game was rigged from the start. But here is where we must change the narrative. We must not stay in the position of the victim. In alchemy, the first stage of the magnum opus, the creation of the philosopher's stone, is called nigredo, blackness, decomposition. It is a period of total chaos where the old structures are burned away. Being the scapegoat is your nigredo. The pain of being rejected is actually the fire of purification. Because you were pushed out, you were forced to develop independence. Because you were not accepted by the tribe, you were forced to find your own truth. The golden child, the one who was praised and kept close, is often doomed to remain a child forever, trapped in the parents' expectations. But you, the exile, you are free. The scapegoat is the only one who leaves the cave. Your suffering was not meaningless. It was the tuition fee you paid for your individuality. It was the necessary friction required to separate you from the unconscious herd. They pushed you into the darkness, thinking it would destroy you. They did not realize the darkness is where the stars are born. You have spent enough time carrying this weight alone. Here, in this digital space, the rules of your family do not apply. You are not the problem here. You are the observer. If this message resonated with you, I invite you to leave your story in the comments below. Not for the algorithm, but for yourself. Write down the accusation you bore that was never yours. Write down the moment you realized you were the identified patient. Let the comment section become a graveyard for those old burdens. Lay them down so you do not have to carry them back out into the world. You are seen, you are understood, and most importantly, you are welcome.